not, but I heard that once upon a time there was this woman who was supposed to be running against Donald Trump and trying to make history, and this senator turned presidential candidate, and this woman is being hyped to the sky by the white media. They make a huge deal about how she's dominating in the polls, and there's a ton of headlines saying that she's setting fundraising records. And this woman set a new Democrat record for fundraising. She's raised more money than any candidate in human history, etc., etc. I mean, if this woman has set fundraising records, then we can't deny that she has an invincible groundswell behind her. The dollars don't lie. Look at all the money she's getting. She'll beat Trump for sure, just drowning him in campaign cash. The implication of all this white media attention on fundraising is to give the public the overwhelming impression that the smart money, or at least the big money, is on this female presidential candidate who's running against Trump. So Trump's voters and donors might as well accept that the votes and the money are behind her, and they might as well give up now and save themselves some time and money. I'm sure you've seen those headlines, haven't you? How could you miss them? They're everywhere. Except I'm not talking about Kamala Harris. The female candidate I'm talking about was Hillary Clinton. You see, 8 years ago, there were a ton of white media headlines about how much money Hillary Clinton had fundraised when she ran against Trump. And you know the one word the white media used more than any other when talking about Hillary's campaign cash? Record. Either record-setting or record-breaking. That was how the left corner of the white media was describing and praising Hillary Clinton's campaign fundraising 8 years ago. In fact, the Washington Post reported that by October of 2016, Hillary had raised over $1 billion in campaign funds. Over $1 billion with a B, more than $1 billion. Even Obama couldn't pull that hat trick. But what needs to be said is that the reason she was able to rake in that much cash is because of the so-called mega donors. These are the billionaires and mega millionaires who make enormous political contributions because they're buying access to the White House. They're the people who you read about who have private dinners with the candidates where they get a handful of pals together, and the next day we hear that candidate so-and-so has raised several $1 million in a single day. Both Republicans and Democrats do it, but the Democrats and their pundit allies try to pretend like the Democrats don't. Well, if you look at the campaign financial disclosures, you see the Democrats are neck deep in it. Again, for the slow wits out there, this is not to say that there's anything good about Trump. There's not. The point is that all of this stuff trying to claim as if there's some sort of difference between him and the Democrats, there's not. We've seen these headlines before about record-breaking campaign fundraising. In fact, Hillary was doing better than Kamala at fundraising this point in her campaign. But did that win the election for her? Did it? I'm just asking for a friend. I know it was a few years back, and I don't remember who won the election in 2016, but was it Hillary? It must have been, because the headlines then are exactly the same as they are for Kamala now. So I think it's safe to say Kamala...
And so the question is, what did Hillary ever say? What did Hillary ever say? She talked about eating collard greens. She talked about using hot sauce. But what did that woman ever say about reparations? I'll wait. Yes, I will wait.
Not. We've seen these headlines before about record-breaking campaign fundraising. In fact, Hillary was doing better than Kamala had a few years back, and I don't remember who won the election in 2016, but was it Hillary? It must have been, because the headlines then are exactly the same as they are for Kamala now. So I think it's safe to say Kamala will get the same result as Hillary, right? The white media is hyping Kamala's fundraising, recycling the same headlines from 8 years ago. Female candidate for the presidency. She's electrifying the crowds. She's shattering fundraising records. Kamala's not even ahead of Trump. She's merely, quote-unquote, closed the gap when it comes to polls in a couple of states. Kamala needs to move the needle majorly, but right now she hasn't. And I guess that's the reason why she decided to start palling around with pop music figures. If you want irrefutable proof that the left corner of the white media is simply recycling the Obama playbook, you'll recall that during the Obama years, Michelle was praising Beyonce and basically acting like she was still a club rat or something. The First Lady of the United States shouting out not an intellectual or a historian, but Beyonce. And then Kamala's trying to hitch her wagon to the same train. Beyonce and Megan the Stallion. Miss WAP herself. I guess some of those white DNC consultants must have told Kamala that she made a fool of herself dancing to Cardi B. And I don't think Cardi B's behind her anyway, so she needs to find a new thought to get behind. Now, considering how Jay-Z wanted to be all neutral when it came to Colin Kaepernick in the NFL, he didn't want to offend the offensive people. Why would his wife, Beyonce, decide to go political on this? Because she's getting a big boost in her album sales ever since it was announced that Kamala's using her music. So a few needle drops for Kamala Harris equals a few million in the bank. It's a business decision. So in the last 4 years, we've seen everything from Get Your Booty to the Polls, to Cardi B, and now Beyonce and Megan the Stallion. When is Kamala going to come to the black community and start pledging tangibles to us, or even solid?
And will we ever hear Kamala ever say anything about reparations? Will she ever even bring that up? Or is she like Senator Bernie Sanders saying, oh, that's too divisive? Oh, that's too divisive. Is that what we're going to hear her say? Well, she won't say it, but she's definitely thinking it, and she's staying far, far, far away from it. It's too divisive. She doesn't want to say anything about it. So how can we have anything to do with a person like that?
She's doing. No policies, nothing serious. Instead, let's go ahead and bring out some black entertainers. That's what those Negroes will respond to. We can go ahead and do that, and they're like a bunch of dumb little sheep. All we gotta do is have Kamala Harris standing beside Beyonce, or have her shaking her bony rump to Megan the Stallion. And instead of being insulted that this is how she comes to us, there'll be a lot of Negroes that go, well, she trying to reach the people. What they're really saying is that they're low information voters. They don't even know what the hell their interests are and really don't care. So for them, this is fine. Kamala's not promising anything to us, and if she's not promising anything, you sound like a fool saying that she's going to do something for us. Kamala knows that her black credibility is sorely lacking, so she's trying to stand as close to black women as she can in the hopes that she'll blend in. Black by osmosis. And while she's trying to appeal to black women voters, I'll reiterate the same questions I've been asking about for the last 5 years. What is Kamala Harris offering to black women? For the shea butter bootlegs who like to infest my comment section, that's the question you just can't answer, can you? Has she made any promises specifically for black women, or any promises at all for black women? Now remember, you've had the bitter shea butter bootlegs like Vivica Fox and other dried up bitter broads who complain that there needs to be a slate of political policies specifically and only for black women because black women aren't part of the black community according to these has-beens. Stupid as hell, but for the sake of argument, let's go ahead and entertain this foolishness. What has candidate Kamala promised to black women? And the reason that I ask is because Vivica Fox has gone on the record giving her endorsement to Kamala Harris. This despite the fact that Vivica Fox has yet to get one campaign pledge or even a Twitter tweet saying what Kamala's going to do for black women. Shouldn't that be what Vivica Fox is talking about? Because that was her main gripe when she was arguing with Ice Cube. She didn't like his proposed plan for black America and certainly didn't like him talking with Donald Trump about it because Trump wasn't promising black people anything. Well, in that case, what's Vivica Fox's justification for supporting Kamala Harris then? As Rolling Stone reported it, Vivica Fox says, quote, you, talking about Biden, passed the torch to possibly the first African-American female president. Dude, you're going down as a rock star if she wins. That's the way that Vivica Fox talks about a presidential election that she believes is so important, so crucial, so consequential. Dude, you're going down as a rock star if she wins. That's the level of mentality we're dealing with. So that's all Kamala Harris has to do for Vivica Fox, to occasionally identify as a black woman, and that's enough for Vivica Fox. She doesn't need any tangibles or policies for black women at all. Vivica Fox is doing all this vicarious living mess, which is a political trap black people fall into since the 60s. That's the whole black faces in high places canard. Black people trying to live vicariously through these bootlicks and sellouts like John Lewis, Barack Obama, and Kamala Harris. People who gave up on having success for themselves try to bask in someone else's. Next, Fox is quoted as having said that her makeup assistant wasn't sure that she would vote. And so Fox and some other black women told her, honey, let's get some information for you because not voting is voting for Trump. And that is what the other party is counting on, for people to not care. So every time I can spread the word to somebody that may not be politically active, I try to. Man, she's going heavy with the bootlicking now, ain't she? What she said is the very epitome of a low information voter. How does me not voting equal a vote for someone? Does my not going to vote somehow get added to Trump's vote tally? More people in America actually abstain from voting than not, so do all of those non-voters have ballots cast for someone in their names regardless? How does this work exactly? Answer, it doesn't. And no, there's no way Republicans can stop black people from voting if we really want to. The only way black voters don't care about the outcome of the election is because no candidate has come to us and told us that we stand to gain anything from it. It's not our job to get excited about a candidate. It's the candidate's job to come to us and galvanize us by telling us specifically what we're going to get. As Bill Moyers once said, elections are all about who gets what. And looking at both Trump and Kamala Harris, the black vote has not been promised anything at all. The problem that Vivica Fox doesn't want to talk about is that black voters are demoralized. And that being the case, who's at fault for that? It's not the Republicans. Black people aren't going to vote for them anyway. It's the Democrats who have spent decades perfecting the art of bluffing and BSing their way through major elections, using all kinds of propaganda, stalling tactics, talking points, and rhetorical dodges to get votes without promising, much less doing anything to earn them. The only way my not voting for Kamala helps Trump is if Kamala is behind in the polls, and she needs every vote she can get. So the problem clearly is that Kamala hasn't done the work to get black support, and now she's resorting to using the old scare talk and shaming tactics. Again, nowhere in Vivica's cheerleading for Kamala do I see what Kamala's going to do for black women, to say nothing of the black community in general. So why is Vivica Fox all hot and bothered to support her? See, this is why we don't truck with those black celebrities in Hollywood. They're all playing the white media's game. Vivica's blatant belligerence is because her own career is over. She's a washed-up has-been for the 90s, and she's got a bone to pick with black men. Personally, I blame 50 Cent for how she's acting. But my point is, if she actually cared about putting black women first, then why isn't she doing it now? Why isn't Vivica saying that black women shouldn't support Kamala unless she puts forward a plan for what she's going to do for black women? Sure, that's very reductive, and it's going to be self-defeating in the end, but at least it would be consistent. But she's not doing that. So is this really about black women to her, or was it just a clumsy front for her?
In chief and leader of the free world. So let's compare their resumes, shall we?
That's a great intro.
One candidate worked at McDonald's while she was in college at an HBCU.